Hell yeah.
We're back. Sorry for missing a week.
I gotta pour this. This is an exciting beer.
It's an exciting day, Clete. Why is it so exciting?
Well, it was my birthday.
That's the first thing.
And I had a kid born, my first kid.
Clete's a dad.
Before. March 3rd. My birthday's March 4th. We got a newborn. And
tiny
it's
little
pretty
guy.
Crazy. I'm tired as hell.
Yeah. I was just telling you. Goodbye to sleep forever, man. You don't sleep ever again.
Nope. Good vibes and good times.
Now we can just stay up recording podcast all night every night.
Why even sleep? Sleep's stupid.
Sleep's overrated.
So for this special occasion, because it's my birthday and I had a life-changing event, I bought a fancy beer for the podcast today. It's called Big Bad Baptist. It's 12%. It reminds me of I've been listening to Mr. Creepypasta, and he came out with this new series, select to his channel. And it's called the Masterson Chronicles. I think I've mentioned it once on the show, but it's like a Western theme and writing. And basically, he's just an angry preacher that just kills evil beings like out west. It's so good. Wow. And then it goes on to there's other lore written about it. And I stumbled on the last one on accident and didn't know it was connected. And it's about a guy who's like working for the devil, that he went to hell and Satan brought him back to earth to do his bidding. So it's pretty fucking good, man. If anyone likes listening to audiobooks, it's free on YouTube. Check it out. Damn. Shit. I spent like 7 hours listening to the series thus far. I'm on Broken Messiah right now, which is pretty good.
What's it called again?
So the first one is the Masterson Chronicles. The other one is Hellbound. And then the third one is what I just said. Broken Messiah. There we go.
Nice.
They're so good. It's like 10 hours of content, but man, so good.
Damn. We'll have to check it out. But yeah, congratulations, Clete, on being a dad. Cheers. And happy birthday, 1 year older.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. That is...
I haven't taken a sip yet.
That is a big bad Baptist. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Did we even say what it's called?
Yeah, I said it, yeah.
Oh, I'm not even paying attention. I also have not slept.
Oh, Lord. Take a sip of that.
You can't even... Light does not penetrate this thing.
It's like a punch to the face. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, I love that. I love getting punched in the face. And it's a big one, too. You had to buy the biggest bottle you could find?
Yeah, man. It's a special occasion. I haven't drank at all.
We're going to get halfway through and we're going to start slurring.
What's the officer problem?
So, I don't know if you've been watching it, but there's the Last of Us on HBO.
Nope.
So good. You need to watch it. It's by the time we air this, it'll be like the season finale on that day. It's so good. So good. Just check it out. It's based off the video game, but like they stir away from it a little bit, but yeah. It's pretty incredible, man. I think even the likes of you would like it.
I probably enjoy it, but maybe because I'm stuck, sometimes watching the kid, maybe I'll watch it. Maybe that'll happen,
It's not called watching the kid. You're the father. You're just
don't die. See you in 10 hours.
Parenting.
Go in the other room.
It's my turn to watch the kid. So, in light of Clete being a brand new dad, and me having some experiences with this, we found a Reddit thread for the occasion that's called "Parents, have you ever heard anything creepy or Parents, have you ever heard anything creepy or unexplainable through your baby monitor?" Baby monitors are creepy, man. I gotta tell you.
I've always heard stories from a person who knew a person that something scary happened on a baby monitor. There's something like alluring to it for whatever reason, because, babies are just so innocent, and you're so it's almost like you feel vulnerable, but it's not you, That's the feeling you get. And it's always just like,
holy shit.
You gotta protect them. And the idea that you see someone on their baby monitor, I don't know. It's just spooky.
God damn,
yeah,
Clete.
You just get punched in the face, bro.
Holy Lord.
Your face is red. You got a little fist on your cheek.
Wow.
Yeah. That's one big bad Baptist.
I got a little bit more hair on my chest.
Amen.
Holy shit.
Oh.
Damn. That is a big bad Baptist. Good Lord.
Guys, if you ever see this on your shelves, this is actually a Utah brewery, so you probably won't be able to see it.
This came from Utah?
Yeah, it's Epic Brewing, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
Man, they weren't fooling around with this one.
This one is by True Love. When my daughter was about 8 months old, I was in her bedroom cleaning while she was playing in her crib. I had her monitor turned down, but when I noticed the red lights moving, signaling noise, I turned it up. I heard plain as day a child screaming something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, no, please, no."
Whoa.
The worst part is that I could actually hear him being hit. Oh, damn it. Come on. Why would you hit? No. Not slapped, but okay. I lived in a heavily populated area of Pittsburgh, so there was no telling where this was happening. Oh, Jesus. It's getting worse, so it's not even a ghost story. God damn it. I grabbed my daughter and ran outside, hoping to hear the child scream from the apartment or house so I could call the police. But I couldn't zero in on it. Such a horrible feeling not being able to stop this poor child from being in a bad situation.
Jesus Christ.
I never looked at any of my neighbors the same. You know, man.
You don't hit a child.
Like, you got to be a special kind of evil to do that, you know.
Special circle in hell for you. Okay, this comes from Melissa, 132428. I used to babysit 2 kids, and they each had a video monitor that picked up sound. I put them to bed and was sitting downstairs doing homework, and I thought they were both asleep because it had been like a half hour since I'd put them into bed. Neither kid was shifting around anymore. It was silent except for their breathing through the monitors. I don't know of a kid that breathes like that, man. Are you possessed?
Oh, my God.
It was pitch black outside, and the parents wouldn't be home for another couple of hours. All of a sudden, I heard a little kid's voice singing. I couldn't tell what the voice was saying, but it sounded really creepy. I looked at the monitors, and neither kid had moved. Went up to their rooms and checked on both of them. Apparently the younger one, 3 years old, would sing to himself when he couldn't sleep, and his mom didn't tell me that. He was laying perfectly still, singing softly. I nearly shit myself when I heard it through the monitor. Good Lord. He's like singing backwards in Latin.
I like the person who wrote, "That's incredibly adorable, but completely terrifying to live through."
Yeah.
Adorifying. I love Reddit. This is from Why I Do It. I used to babysit 2 small kids, 3 and 6 at the time, and I would occasionally put them to bed. The parents told me the younger one was afraid of the dark and would probably ask me to lay in bed with him until he fell asleep. I put the 6-year-old to bed in her room and go lay down with the little boy. About a half hour later, he had fallen asleep. I was ready to sneak out of the room when I heard a grunting and a rapid flapping noises from the kid's room. It sounded like she was having a seizure. Oh my. I rushed over to find that she was flinging her arms around her bed like a rag doll. She looked possessed. Apparently, she did this almost every night because she didn't want to go to bed. Her parents didn't warn me of that before going out for the evening. It was terrifying.
If your kid does some crazy ass shit, you need to tell them. It's like, every night my son turns into a pterodactyl and terrorizes the neighborhood. Just thought you wanted to know. Yeah, it's good information.
A velociraptor, and he gets people.
He'll bite you. Out of nowhere, you'll just be like walking around the house and he'll come bite your ankle.
You watch Jurassic Park, and at night he thinks it's a T-Rex and will try to bite you.
He plays the scene where everything goes to shit.
Right in the shin. Bite you right in the shin.
Oh, Lord.
That could ruin a relationship.
Yeah. If anyone bites me in the shin, it's over.
Yeah.
Don't talk
I'll
to
just
me
be
again.
Like, I'm getting a divorce.
Okay, this is from Wing Lamo. This isn't something I heard from my kid's room, but it was something creepy heard over a baby monitor. I did at-home care for a little while, and there was this one client I had a couple years ago. The lady I assisted had dementia, and she was just at the point where the good days were fading. We had a baby monitor in her room so we could hear when she was waking up. I'll go ahead and mention that we had also put bells pinned to her sheets so that when she was trying to get up on her own, which was a fall risk, we would hear the bells jingle. It was common to hear her down in the room talking to that man, asking, "Who are you? And what is it?" to an empty room. One evening, her and I were in the living room together by ourselves, and I heard the bells start jingling on their own over the baby monitor. There was no ceiling fan, the AC and heat wasn't running, and no windows were open. I always had bad feelings in our house, with things like cabinets opening, and one really creepy time where it sounded like footsteps coming down the hallway, which really scared me. I'm honestly glad I will never have to go into that house again.
Yeah, there's like this YouTube video that's like, I think 24 hours long, and it's like just this long soundtrack that simulates dementia.
24 hours long?
Yeah, I think it's really long, but it's like it starts out all pleasant and things like that. And then as like the onset of dementia happens, like the music starts to permeate or mutate into like different distorted music. And before, like, it's really nice at the start, but at the end, it's like terrifying. It's It's really interesting.
Jeez,
So
my wife showed me a video once. It was like this guy posted. He's like, "This is the most accurate depiction of like schizophrenia I could find," and it was like this distorted voices playing, and it was like really dark and dreary. It was so crazy.
It's like, all right, this one is from Grismicky.
It's Grease Monkey.
No, Grismicky. I was at a friend's house one night. She was putting her little boy to bed. Her baby monitor had a camera built in and was installed at the foot of her crib. She also had one of those mattresses sensors in the crib. Well, we were sitting down watching a movie, and the receiver for the monitor is on the coffee table in front of us. The sound sensor spikes and a screen goes white. She picks it up, and all you can make out on the screen is an eerie face. We go running to the room, and her kid is sound asleep. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. We look around and don't see anything strange.
Shut the fuck up.
So we go back to the movie. Oh, there's got to be someone in the room. About 10 minutes later, the same thing happens. I get up quietly and sneak to his room while she stays on the couch. I catch the kid standing up in his crib with his face right up against the monitor.
Oh, Lord.
He's smiling like crazy and giggling. He looks over at me quickly and lays down and acts like he's asleep. Like, that's like, kid logic right there.
Oh, my God.
I let her know what's up, and she laughs it off. A few nights later, she tells me the same thing happened to the monitor, but her boy was sitting on the couch next to her at the time. So just when I thought it was going to end on a normal note. Jesus.
This comes from Punk Walrus. Okay, in early 1990, I worked for a volunteer-based security group. We didn't have a radio license for real walkie-talkies yet, so we had a set of headsets that worked off some common household frequencies. These frequencies were used for a child's walkie-talkies, cheap cordless phones, drive-through speakers, baby monitors, and such. During an outdoor distance test, I picked up some lady's cordless phone where she talked about gross medical stuff, but she couldn't hear us to get her to stop. So while testing a battery replacement, I picked up a two-way baby monitor in her nearby apartment. There was a baby fussing and the sound of some woman doing dishes. "I'll be right there, hun," the woman said. On a whim, I pushed talk on my headset and said with a loud, demonic voice, "Feed me!"
Yes.
Then I heard the shattering of dishes. That was hilarious when I was 21, but after reading this, I feel bad. Sorry, lady stranger. Dude, I would shit myself. "Feed me!"
You gotta read the reply.
So someone commented here, "It's very possible that every time she has looked at her kid, she's had a belief in the back of her mind that her baby is possessed. While she doesn't honestly believe it to be so, she wouldn't be completely shocked if the kid's eyes turned black and it started crawling around on the ceiling." That would be hard to believe, man. Out of nowhere, just "Feed me!" For the rest of your life, you're like, do you remember that? Do you remember that time? Try explaining that to anybody.
It reminds me of, you seen those videos where the guys like hack into the people's Bluetooth speakers because they're always like playing music and they change it to like Miley Cyrus or something?
Yeah.
Shit's hilarious. This one is from Red-Headed Bug. Hopefully this fits well enough because it was a baby monitor that set it off. Okay, so my daughter now is almost 2 and has long since moved into her own room. We have one of those video monitor things where you can see and hear the baby on this little TV thing, or you can turn the picture off and just get the sound. So one night, maybe a month ago, I'm sitting in bed scrolling through Reddit or something, and I start hearing my daughter babbling to herself. Now, it's really late, like 1 or 2 in the morning, much later than she is ever awake unless something is wrong and she's sick or cutting a tooth or something. So I turn the picture on, the monitor on, and see her standing up in her crib, facing sort of diagonally away from the camera. I can see her hands in front of her, but only like half of her face. Now is a good time to mention that we have been teaching her ASL since she was about 3 months old, and she's been responding and conversing in sign language about 10 months. I can see her signing things like nice and silly and fun, and oddly enough, no, don't like, and bear. What the actual fuck? Of course, being the good and loving mother I am, and really not wanting to deal with an overly sleepy baby in the morning, I get up to see what the heck she is doing. When I get to her room, she's still standing up and signing and babbling towards the far corner of her room. I ask her what she's doing and who she's talking to, and she signs and says, as best she can, "Friend." Jeez.
No.
Which she does with her whole hands and not just her index fingers, and signs "Bear" again. I tell her that, no, see Bear, who is actually one of her stuffed toys, is in the bed with her, not in the corner of the room. But she just giggles at me and signs says silly and mommy. I can see she is wide awake, so I sit down in the rocker next to her in her bed and try to figure out what woke her up. But all she will tell me is friend and bear, and occasionally duck down like something is hiding and making noises. Shh, noises. I finally get fed and ask her who friend bear is, and she responds literally gave me chills because she doesn't speak very well. But she manages to say very clearly, and with the most serious face a 20-month-old can pull off, no name, shh.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, now I am well and truly freaked out, and I tell her to ask no name friend bear to go home because it is too late to play, and I did what any good loving mother would do. I gave her a pacifier, went back to my room, turned off the monitor entirely, and hid under my covers in my room, where a good and loving husband would protect me from the nameless invisible bears.
Jesus.
That was a good fucking story.
Like a nameless bear just roaming their house.
That was good. That was fucking weird.
No name. I'm
the no-name bear, and I'm going to come get you with my bare hands. My bear claw donuts.
I'll send my Baptist after you. All right, this is from Deleted. I guess this would be the best place to leave my BabyMonitor story. You don't say. My family used to have a BabyMonitor set up at the top of our stairs, so that when myself or my brother were downstairs on the family computer, my mom would have to yell at us to come upstairs. She could simply talk at a normal level near the monitor, and we would know to come up. It was really handy, actually. Anyway, one night I was home alone as my parents are at my brother's hockey game, and I'm downstairs on the computer playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. The monitor was always on full volume, and as a kid, anytime I would hear a crack or a noise, I would obviously stop playing and listen carefully. Well, on this particular night, I heard a bang. Nothing that was too startling, kind of sounded like a cupboard door shutting. I paused my game, stared at the monitor. I then heard my front door unlock. The door didn't open. I just heard it simply unlock. My heart dropped. It was really quiet. About 10 seconds after the door unlocked, I heard a massive, loud bang, like someone stomping on the hardwood upstairs, and the BabyMonitor went to loud static. I immediately started crying and hid under the computer desk for an hour before my parents came home. When my parents got home, they asked me if I'd let anyone in because the door was unlocked. I explained what happened, but they couldn't figure anything out. There was nothing taken. Then BabyMonitor was still plugged in, and there were no signs of anyone else being in the house. To this day, thinking about that night gives me chills.
Someone replied, it was a homeless man who decided to shack up in one of your closets. Not a big deal.
That's what they call frogging.
All right, this one is from Heartbreak City. On a less creepy note, I was accidentally responsible for my boss hearing terrifying sounds through her kid's BabyMonitor.
Oh, God.
My kid's boss was born in 2005, and The Grudge was still kind of a big deal, especially with the sequel approaching. I taught the kiddo to make that creepy voice clicky sound. Is that The Grudge, or is it? I don't know. She liked to mimic, and it was pretty hilarious to hear her do it. Unfortunately, she decided to bust it out at around 1 o'clock in the morning at one point, and it terrified the crap out of my boss and her husband. I got fuck you texts in the early hours of the morning, like a month.
You're fired.
Like a month. And then again, when I taught her the chorus of never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down.
Got Rick rolled.
For a while there. It was a toss-up as to whether they'd wake up to hear creepy ghost sounds or annoying songs. They were less than pleased.
Jeez.
You got them rickrolled by their own baby.
Okay, this is from Mrs. Mordor. My husband went upstairs to put my son to sleep. He came back down and we started watching a movie. The window was open and we could faintly hear our neighbor's dog barking 2 houses down. I look over at the video monitor in night vision mode and see my son standing up and a woman walk in and pick him up.
No.
He gladly went with her. No. I was just in disbelief. Told husband to go check. He went up there and kiddo was lying there like, trying to sleep here. What's your deal? He came back down and we just kind of sat there dumbfounded until we heard the neighbor's dog barking again, but on the BabyMonitor in our son's room. Took us about an hour to finally realize they had the same monitor as us.
Damn.
And we were watching their kids' room.
No way. They're wearing the same like shirt. Like,
I was gonna say, how could
coincidentally.
you just didn't know it's like a different room?
That's nuts.
But usually the monitor's like facing the crib. So
I would have a heart attack.
that would be bad.
I don't know if it was like a Facebook thing or something, but I saw this like article and it was like, have you seen this man? And it was like one of those sketches of what they thought he might look like. And he was kidnapped when he was like 40 years old from some random lady. Just fucking took the kid. Just who knows what happened.
I think we talked about it on the show a while back, but I actually have a fear of like, because there was that story about this guy that was walking his kid back to his car after grocery shopping, and this crazy lady came up and took his cart and was like, this guy's trying to steal my baby.
Dude, there's so many conspiracy theories about missing children.
Yeah, but like I worry about that because like if a woman's screaming that someone's taking her kid, they're going to believe her.
Yeah.
It could be your kid. Like I don't know why, but that's a genuine fear of mine.
Yeah, like if some girl just grabs your kid and is like, oh, he's a creep.
Yeah.
They'll come fight you.
Yeah, because all the guys are going to be like, oh, hell no.
Fuck you, creep. Yeah, it's definitely a double standard. But no, there's so many conspiracies about like organized crime, like stealing kids.
Yeah, it gets dark.
Who knows what with.
It gets dark.
Maybe I'll have to cover an episode. I remember I was listening to something about like these police pulled this guy's van over and it had a bunch of kids in the back. And they were like a bunch of runaways, but they never like followed up on like what was going on or like why they were in the van and who he was working for. Like the case was just essentially he went to jail, but there's no explanation about what was going on.
Jesus.
Okay, this one is from Gentry91. My parents told me of the ghost of the little white house when I was about 13 or 14. The whole conversation starts with some talk of ghosts. I'm not exactly sure how, but it led me to my mom telling me of the ghost nanny that I used to have as a baby. She told me that although I never cried much, the nights I would start crying, they would awake to the crying over the baby monitor. This would be quickly followed by the sound of a rocking chair in my bedroom rocking, and I would stop crying. What the? That's creepy. She told me that they would often come into my room and find bottles that neither of them have given me. The creepiest story, she told me, it was the story of my almost death. One of my grandmothers was supposed to be watching me because both of my parents were at work, but she was doing something or left, not my great-grandmother, but I had apparently become wrapped up in my blanket and was beginning to suffocate. No. Well, about at the same time, my other grandmother, fantastic grandma, got this strange feeling that she needed to check on me, and apparently the feeling was so strong that she left work and came to the house to find me just in time that I didn't die. My mother surely believed in it, and it was a pretty convincing story when she told it. And at the end of the story, she told me that right before we moved into our new place, home, she thanked the ghost for all it had done for the family and for keeping me safe. That's a sweet story.
Okay, this comes from Deleted. We were at a party where my friend and his wife went to check on the baby, who was sleeping upstairs. It turned out they forgot the baby monitor downstairs, on the table. As it was voice activated, it turned on. When they entered the room and transmitted their conversation to everybody, including the part where the wife agreed to a... Whoa, that took a weird turn. Where the wife agreed to a quick blowjob. We were polite and switched off the baby monitor, but their face was priceless when they came back downstairs and noticed the baby monitor on the table.
You just like make direct eye contact and go, nice.
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 Shots, anybody?
So this one is from El Sinistro. This doesn't quite fit, but one time my friends and I were chilling in his garage and his baby was asleep in his crib inside. Then we hear static from the baby monitor, followed by this really creepy, raspy voice whispering, "I've come for the child."
Holy Lord.
Turns out it was just a friend's brother who had walked in the front door of the house. He had a key, and upon realizing we were out in the garage, thought he'd freak us out a little bit.
Jesus.
It worked.
I've come for the child. Okay, this comes from MGN Capri. Not me, but my grandmother tells this story pretty often whenever any sort of ghost conversation comes up. My parents moved into this old house in Connecticut when my middle brother was a baby and my oldest brother was about 10. I was not born yet. The house was pretty haunted to the point that to this day, my oldest brother will not talk about it. After several weeks of finding him sleeping in the hallway outside my parents' door, they decided maybe he needed a little vacation. At this point, my parents were in denial about their undead housemates, so they didn't mention my oldest brother's behavior to my grandmother, who agreed to watch my middle brother while my parents took him to Disney World. Damn. The first night my grandmother stayed at the house, she heard a woman talking about my brother through the monitor. Then she heard some faint singing. Wanting it to be something logical, my grandmother assumed that she had left the TV on in the bedroom. My brother's crib was in my parents' room. She went up there, no TV, no radio, just my infant brother laughing at absolutely nothing. My grandmother basically spent the rest of the week terrified and would not go back to our house after my parents returned. She had some other strange things happen, but notes the BabyMonitor talk as one of the scariest experiences she's ever had. My parents toughed out that house for about a year until one day all the china came flying out of the china cabinet. My mom said she's never packed and gotten out of a house that fast. They stayed in a hotel until they sold it.
Jesus. All right, this one is from Deleted. I was babysitting my niece once while I was staying at my brother's place, and they had the baby camera set up, so I could see her on the little TV it came with. I was studying and started dozing off when I heard some whispering, and realized it was coming from the monitor, though I initially thought it was some feedback or something, but when I looked at the TV there was a dark shadow near her crib. I have never been more terrified in my life, but the shadow was clearly there, where it had not been before. I ran to her room and looked around and saw nothing, but I took her the hell out of there. I went back to the TV and the shadow was clearly gone. I told my brother what happened, and he pulled me aside and told me to not mention it to my sister-in-law because it'll freak her out, but that he'd seen that same thing several times now, with the same whispering. They stayed in that house for more than 4 years, and when my niece was just learning to talk, she would tell her mom about her special friend. To this day, this scares the shit out of me. When they moved out, my brother told me my niece had become inconsolably sad because that she would miss her friend. Her mom would tell her that she could bring him along, but all she said was that he couldn't leave the house. We have never to this day told her about that damn shadow, and she apparently never saw it.
God damn.
That's fucking weird.
Niece had a ghost friend. You've seen the movie Insidious, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's that part where, like, she goes upstairs because the baby monitor's making that weird sound, and there's, like, some fucker standing behind the curtain. Freaked me out so bad.
But I love that music. To the
Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Tiptoe through the tulips.
Fucking weird.
With me. Okay, this comes from Deleted. I was just coming home from work. My two sister-in-laws had been babysitting my 1-year-old daughter. They told me they had just laid my daughter down for a nap. Then one sat in the living room, and one went to the bathroom. Suddenly, the one in the living room heard whispering through the monitor. At the same time, the sister-in-law that had been in the bathroom was walking by and heard it from my daughter's room. Then my daughter started to freak the hell out, screaming and crying. They, of course, got her the hell out of there, and I walked in the door. Now, my house was not a big house, and my daughter was always adventurous. After that day, she would not so much as go within 5 feet of her own doorway. We tried to put her to bed that night, and the second we shut the door, she screamed and cried again. So we allowed her to sleep in our bed. The next day was the same. Just walking by the doorway to the bathroom freaked her out. Luckily, we were moving a few days later to a new house, so we moved her crib into our bedroom, and she slept perfectly. She still says she doesn't want to go back to the old scary house to this day. She's 3 years old.
Oh my God.
God, that whisper just ruined her whole life.
Yeah. You really burp after all that. I could be drinking beer right now.
Has he pooped on you yet?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You would know if he pooped on you. You'll just hear...
Dude, he did a fart, I'll tell you that. I felt that.
Wait till you catch a hot hand of diarrhea. It's not fun.
When I get old, will you clean my poop? This one is from Make5158. I moved into a house over the winter. My first actual house I've owned on my own, so I was pretty stoked. And we just had our second kid just a week before signing. So we were excited to get her room remodeled for her. Walls painted, floors redone, making the house ours.
That's fun when you make your kid's room. You'll know that.
Man.
It's fun.
Of course, we set up a baby monitor the first thing. as the children's room are on the opposite sides of the house. At first, there were no issues. Baby didn't enjoy the room during the day. She'd stare at the walls as if she didn't like the pale purple paint. We painted them a nice orange that weekend. We also got a cat. That's when things started to get a little weird. The cat and the baby now had no problem with the room in the day. Our daughter was too young to do much other than be calm or fuss. But the cat was old enough to be a bit more expressive. All days, she'd stare at the southeast corner of the room. At night, she'd arch her back and hiss as if threatened. We'd start hearing faint noises like talking over the monitor at night, but never loud or clear enough to make out. I'm nothing if not a logical man. That corner had an old dresser that we'd rescued from an old army hotel when it closed. Perhaps the cat could sense old smells it didn't like. There was also an entrance to the crawl space under the corner on the outside, so a lot of wires entered through there. But both children and small animals are sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. I went under the house and removed about 100 feet of extraneous wiring from the previous owner's satellite TV and rewired that section of the house to eliminate possible interference and replace old wires with shielded cable. We also moved the dresser just in case. But the noises didn't stop. They grew more frequent. The cat refused to go in the room during the day. It would sit awake in the crib all night, body between the baby and the rest of the room. Okay, so it's the cat. Eyes locked to the corner, occasionally growling or hissing. We stopped letting our son have his radio on at night in case that we were hearing that. As we met our neighbors, we would ask if they had any small children, but none had baby monitors of their own. We installed an alarm system, and it took to keeping my favorite rifle loaded by my bed. Occasionally, the alarm would claim our daughter's window would open, but no alarm would sound, and we'd secure it when checked. We ran out of explanations. We began letting our daughter sleep with us so she'd get better rest. For a lack of better options, I continued to renovate. We finished the bathroom, started on the other rooms, but didn't do anything more to the nursery. Out of morbid curiosity, we left the baby monitor on at night. The noises still happened, but with the room being unused, they sounded almost sad. After a week or so without any use of that room whatsoever, I was lying awake after a long day of work, watching an episode of Bones. Good show. Out of nowhere, clear as day, a woman's voice comes over the monitor and calmly says, "It's okay. I'm leaving now." The monitor clicked off. We've had no problems since. I talked to my wife about it, and we recalled one phase of the old owner said during the closing. They had their third kid, and the house wasn't big enough anymore. We had noticed a fair amount of construction material they left behind. Well, we thought of an addition, she said, looking at her husband, but then there was that thing. They didn't make much eye contact after that. Those bastards.
Okay, this comes from Deleted. I was babysitting my younger brother. I was 12, he was 2, when my mom and her friends were off. My little brother was sleeping upstairs in my mom's room, and I was downstairs watching The Simpsons. I could hear my brother snoring heavily. He was a pudgy baby, for about 15 minutes. All of a sudden, he stopped snoring. Not like he started to drift away from snoring, or the snoring got softer. Just 1 second he was snoring, and the next, nothing. I thought the baby monitor had crapped out, but the light was still on, and I could hear the slight hiss that comes from the speaker. I got up and walked upstairs and opened the door. I couldn't hear him breathing at all. I walked to the crib and gave it a light shake. All of a sudden, my brother let out a super long exhale and started to gasp for air, and woke himself up and started crying. I guess he was sleeping so heavily that his body forgot to breathe. Yeah, just another thing you have to worry about, man.
It's like sleep paralysis, but for kids, man.
Yeah, it's sleep apnea, actually.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
All right, this one is from Mango2407. When my son was old enough to not need a monitor anymore, I was cleaning out his room and posting things to sell. BabyMonitor was one of them. I had the receiver in my room and the other end in my son's, but it was turned off. I turned on the receiver part first with the intention of going to my son's room to turn on the other end on to see if it still works before selling it. When I switched it on, I heard another baby crying. Definitely not my son, as he was watching TV happily. I listened for a while, thinking someone would come in to get him or her eventually. No one came the whole time, My heart broke for that baby. I could hear adults talking in the background, but not clear enough to hear exactly what they were saying. The baby would cry for 20 to 30 minutes, fall back to sleep, wake up crying again for another while, go back to sleep, cry for an hour, sleep, over and over, with no signs of him or her being moved, picked up, spoken to, played with, nothing. I wish I knew which house it was coming from. This was about 5 years ago, and still couldn't figure out who it was. You know, when we were at the hospital, I don't know what brought up, we were talking to nurses, and we asked them about the sketchy people they meet, you know, because they had like a little like drug disposal bin, like for syringes and stuff. And they're like, yeah, you know, sometimes we let them go with the baby and we just pray. It's so sad.
I mean,
so sad.
You kind of have to, man.
Yeah.
Okay, this comes from Sap Hoof. One night, as my husband and I were getting into bed, the lights and television began to flicker. Our 6-month-old son was asleep in the next room, and we heard loud screaming coming from the monitor. With the power still cutting on and off, I went over to check on him, only to find that he was sound asleep. I returned to our bedroom, and I heard crying again through the monitor. At this point, all the power on the top floor had cut out. Dutifully, I went back into the nursery, assuming he had woken up again. He was still asleep. At this point, I realized it wasn't him. That's not our son, I said, gesturing to the monitor. At this point, we just stared at each other, exchanging our various WTFs. It's probably completely explainable, but we've never heard anything else through our monitor. Also, the nature of the power outage was strange and isolated to a couple of rooms. We later discovered it was a bad outlet in a room we used for storage. We also live next to a small cemetery.
It's probably ghosts. I bet it was ghosts.
Coincidence? I think not.
All right, this one is from Cute Sheep 123. I would somewhat frequently watch my neighbor's 2 children in their enormous 1850-ish home. I never really thought of it as being too creepy, but sometimes my best friend would come up with me if it was going to be late night, and we would watch movies once the kids were asleep. At one point, the owners of the house had rented a spare room to a family friend, but at this point, it was no longer the case. When I came back into the living room from being in the kitchen, my friend said the tenant just got home, confirmed late with the parents that no one should have been there. It was creepy how nonchalantly she described him being there. What? I don't fucking understand that.
This one comes from Deleted. When my daughter was little, we had a plain audio monitor that I used while doing yard work when she took her nap. A few nights in a row, I would hear a baby crying, and then a woman scream at the baby to shut the hell up. God damn.
Oh my God.
I ran into my little girl's room, and she is just laying there, silently sleeping. We were surrounded by other homes with families, and I knew a friend across the street had a baby a little older than mine, while she's screaming at her. So I went over the next day to see how she was doing. I thought, dang, she's stressed. After a while of talking to her, everything seemed to be fine. I asked her what brand of monitor she used, and she said she didn't have a monitor since she had her baby in the room with her, in a bassinet. I asked if there were any other families with babies on the street, and she said no. From then, I still heard someone talking to a baby over the monitor. I would hear someone shushing, crying from both a baby and a woman, and whispering. I ended up getting rid of the monitor after a month. I did investigate further, and no one else on our street had a baby. This is one of the many incidents that made me happy when we left that era.
Maybe it was like one of the sewer people's babies.
Or it's like someone that's shacking up in their attic with a baby. Shut the hell up! I've never picked up like...
We live in an attic. They'll find us. All right. This one is from Deleted. I had my babies in the early 1990s. I remember how the baby monitors would sometimes pick up signals from other baby monitors close by, especially when we lived in apartments. So it's not unusual to hear crying or someone talking that wasn't your baby. However, one time I heard creepy music playing and we went to investigate.
Tiptoe through the tulips.
Can you imagine some guy just buys all the different brands of baby monitors just to
just play music
on it? The only thing...
I love you. You love me.
The only thing I could think of... Oh, man. The only thing I could think happened is the monitor must have picked up the music playing in our neighbor's apartment. Other neighbors were from Iran and had a baby close in age. The music was really creepy.
This comes from Rude Ass. Isn't that your nickname, Clete?
Yeah, hell yeah.
My parents told me about this incident when we used to live at my paternal grandparents' home, and I was a 1-year-old baby. I was asleep in my crib, which was made of cloth, not like a tall wooden one. This one's in an iron frame and closer to the ground. I had just gone to sleep like 20 minutes or so. My folks were in the next room having something to eat when I suddenly crawled in with sleep still in my eyes. They said I had never done this before and that I was a good sleeper. Anywho, as soon as I sit next to them, there was a loud crash heard from the room I was sleeping in. They rushed in and saw that the ceiling above the crib had fallen, and the crib was totally mangled. Good God. That's like Final Destination stuff. Like, death will find you. You don't escape death.
It'll get you.
Like, that whole family just starts dying of weird circumstances the whole day. So we have a feeling that someone was watching over me and pulled me out of a deep sleep to save my life. I want to see that baby monitor. He just goes flying out of the crib and the ceiling crashes down. It wasn't my grandparents, as they were alive back then, and I haven't talked with my parents on who it might have been. Cheers to whoever saved me.
All right, this one is from eBeast99. So apparently baby monitors can get hacked.
No way.
This was a few months back, and I was just at my SSGT's house. We were sitting in his living room watching sports and discussing my future in the Marines. I had just gotten out of boot camp, and there's a baby monitor, audio only, sitting on the new table. His newly born daughter of 12 weeks was in the room down the hall. As we were talking, a distorted voice announces that if he doesn't leave a large sum of money at the park on the bench, he will hurt his daughter. So naturally, both of us fearing for his newly born daughter's life, we scramble through his living room to the kitchen. He hands me his M4 magazine and snatches a personal sidearm used for homeowner's defense from the drawer.
What is happening?
We sprint down the hallway. We sprint down the hall, basically kick the door off the hinges, and scan for intruders. Needless to say, there wasn't any. Although his wife wasn't too pleased when she found out, we staged an armed assault on her daughter. They ended up staying at a friend's house for a few days and got a new baby monitor.
Okay, this is from Mr. Edman 4. My grandma has dementia and lives with my parents, siblings, and I. We had a baby monitor in her room in case she starts crying for mama or something. We don't use it anymore because she's not a baby girl and we can use words. You also need to know that we had a TV mounted in her room so she can watch Wheel of Fortune and whatnot. Wheel of Fortune! Anyway, I had the monitor with me as I was doing stuff around the house, and I'm keeping an ear on it, occasionally hearing Pat Sajak talk loudly, but it's too faint to hear anything else. Eventually, I'm in a routine of homework, video games, and then suddenly, I hear a heavy breathing from a monitor. Like, straight up serial killer calls you in the middle of the night and doesn't say anything breathing. This goes on for a solid 10 seconds, and I'm getting really worried. Within the next 10 seconds, I run into a room to find a quit smoking propaganda ad running and breathe a sigh of relief that no one, for whatever reason, was going to hurt my grandmother. I'm disappointed that I can't find the ad online, but if anyone wants to try, it was for New York quits, and it was just text on the screen with breathing. Reply if you find it.
That's so funny.
All right. Well, that, folks, is going to wrap us up for the evening. Thank you again for joining us. Again, we apologize about the delays, but with a lot of very important things happening, like Clete having a new addition to his family, obviously we've had to take a little bit of a hiatus, but we will be back next week. I think we're planning on doing the iceberg, so we'll jump back into some more conspiracies.
I thought we were going to call random numbers and breathe heavily.
Okay, we'll probably do that next.
Record their reactions.
We'll do them both. But also, just a quick shout out there that we do have our subscription service via Buzzsprout. So if you do want to support the show and help us as we continue to provide content, you definitely can. Again, our show will always remain free for those who want to view it and listen to it. But again, if you want to support us, there's a couple tiers. Huge shout out to our supporters here as the Conklin family, Lou and Haley. Thank you all very much for your constant support of the show. We will post the link in the video and on YouTube, so if you want to support us, please do. We really, really appreciate it.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, as it really helps us get us out there. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.